Hello YouTube, this is Ben Yessel. How's it going? Just a few more thoughts here tonight, Friday evening. Um, so, oh gosh. This particular video might be a little bit hard to understand, but I'm going to go over some ground here with regard to specifically Stanley Kubrick, and but I might approach this particular subject in a way that most folks don't, and I might go a few different directions here, not just talking about Stanley, but I'll do my best to explain what I think is in my mind here. And for you guys that have seen some of my other videos, you know, I don't put a lot of stock in, at least for the time being, I don't really put a lot of stock in having my videos really dudded up and you know, there's not a lot of cotton candy with my videos, so to speak. I just, you know, I mean, and, you know, sometimes they get a little bit lengthy, but yeah, I think it's just, you know, again, I'm a fundamental YouTubeist, and until at some point I decided not to be, this is what I'm doing. And so instead of being a vegan, I'm a fundamental YouTubeist. It's my group of people, and I'm sticking to it right now. So, besides, I don't want to have to spend a whole bunch of money and get nothing back regarding having really expensive stuff and not monetizing, and all that good stuff. I don't want you guys to have to sit through ads either. So, anyway, let's get right to it. Stanley Kubrick and some of my thoughts about The Shining in particular, but also some of the other stuff and about him as a person, as far as I know, and that sort of thing. So I'm not the most well-read or knowledgeable person about him. There's many things about him that I don't know, and this is also one of the reasons why it'd be great for you guys to comment below regarding the man and other people like him. And maybe I would also be interested in a comparison and contrast between Stephen King and Stanley Kubrick, because when it comes to The Shining, we both know that they both did it. Stephen King wrote it, Stanley Kubrick directed it, and that book and that movie are absolutely nothing like each other, right? Stephen King is all about the average Joe that just has this place to take him over, right? And his psyche and everything. He just, the progression of getting, falling deeper and deeper into the evil, crazy world of this Overlook Hotel. Stanley was a little bit more, it was just a little different, maybe. But this is a good place to start, because, you know, you understand these guys pretty well. You know, it's a workable situation. I understand Stephen King, I understand Stanley Kubrick. Again, like I say, both of them I have a working knowledge of pretty well. Now, Stephen King, I've mentioned this before, he's kind of an aging hipster, right? He's very liberal, very, very much so, and he's very empathetic toward teenagers and things, and he has a lot of great things about him that way, but he's very not pure. He's the opposite of a Puritan, right? He doesn't really believe in, we'll just say, the righteousness of us being sexually moral, and doesn't really believe in all these rules and regulations regarding sex. So that's Stephen King. So that's also kind of a big reason why a lot of folks are really not too happy with the guy. That's probably the biggest reason. But he also has a very dark imagination, and he, at times, and he goes where most people don't go. He really does, and you know, I could tell you, I've had some pretty intense nightmares, but in that regard, when I was younger, I just had very vivid nightmares. I was an extremely sensitive person, very, very extremely sensitive boy. And when I've had nightmares when I've been older, based on anything frightening I saw, particularly frightening, I think There were some in particular I still remember, but it's something having to do with, yeah, it's not just Stephen King's it, but it's like something having to do with Stephen King's environments that he sometimes creates. If he wants to go dark, he knows how to make a place, really, really not a good place, right? He knows how to describe something via the senses and other things in such a way that that you're not, that you're surrounded by demons in this book, right? Kind of thing. Or it's a very dark place. Okay, enough about King. Stanley Kubrick, so we want to focus a bit more on now, at least in contrast to him. It's common knowledge that he's Jewish, or by ancestry, whatever. He's just Jewish by ancestry. But that being said, I mean, like the reason I mentioned this is because, again, like I mentioned this before in some other videos, for some reason you do have a very high number of people in the arts as well as in the movies, film, and other things like comedy, but just a lot of folks in classical music, pop music, movies, comedy, film. Just a lot of folks are from Israel. They're Jewish. I can't always explain why that is, but I have my theories. Yeah, I do. And but yeah, we're talking about, in my opinion, as a whole, on the whole, talking about a group of people that are pretty intelligent and pretty able to, they're good storytellers, good composers. They're just, I think very highly in general of Jewish folks. It's just, yeah, I mean, Stanley Kubrick, as a person, was basically a perfectionist. And he had this standard that he had to meet, or else he couldn't live with himself, right? So his movies, for some reason, oh, that was my computer screen, sorry, it went just kind of dark here for a second. Oh well, don't worry, it's just technology, it's nothing else. It's not anything other than technology, folks. That's just my computer screen. So, Stanley Kubrick. Hold on one second here. Alright, so, Stanley Kubrick. So, basically, he's not like a lot of other directors. There's a lot of directors that are, and everybody's pressed for time. And, there's always the execs that you've got to satisfy. And also, I think when Stanley was a director, during the time that he was really making movies, it's a little different than it is now. It's harder to have a Stanley Kubrick out there. But he just put everything into his movies. That was, and I mean, they were lengthy, they were, I mean, okay, if we're not looking at The Shining, another movie that he made was a war movie about Vietnam, Full Metal Jacket, right? So when you see a Stanley Kubrick movie, he does not mess around. It's very intense. It is not. I mean, there's no candy coating anything. In other words, Stanley Kubrick is the complete opposite of Walt Disney. I mean, there are some similarities perhaps, but these guys are just night and day different in what they wanted to do. One of the most obvious things that are different about these two guys is that Walt Disney was wanting to make things for kids, and to the whole family, right? But especially kids. Stanley Kubrick, on the other hand, I'm sure that he didn't have a problem with kids seeing some of his stuff, but he was mainly making movies for adults, and also he was making them just oh my gosh, intense, unapologetic. It's true, and he wouldn't make a movie unless there was a lot of truth behind what he was saying in his movie. But Stanley was not after playing nice, being nice. he was after the more controversial, the better, right? Or the more troubling, the better, right? So in a way, he's kind of like Stephen King, where he doesn't back down from certain subject material, right? But and he was a serious workhorse, more than most. I mean, it's insane. But there's another tangent I want to go here in a second. So I myself personally respect the man quite a bit, even though I think he was too hard on Shelley Duvall, but I know why he did that, what he did. And so I love Stanley Kubrick. He's a great guy. He had kind of a pretty intense side to him for us, but what he wanted, what he was after, he was after. Now, I could be wrong. I'm trying to remember exactly who also directed the movie The Thing. I can't remember if that was a Stanley Kubrick movie or not, but something strikes me as being something along those lines. But again, so you guys, in your comments below, feel free to mention some other Stanley Kubrick movies, that sort of thing. So, in The Shining, and I've talked to another lady I know very well about this. I taught this lady's kids piano lessons. And she happens to believe, well, as far as scary movies go, her opinion, what she thinks is the scariest movie she's ever seen was The Shining. And that's interesting because in my experience, the scariest movie I've ever seen was probably Exorcist 3 or Exorcist 1, one of the two. But let's say Exorcist 3. Probably took the cake. I haven't seen anything, I've never seen a movie that's more frightening than Exorcist 3. Especially in certain scenes. Certain scenes are bordering on traumatically scary. I mean, looking at a movie like Exorcist 3, comparing it to Exorcist Emily Rose is kind of ridiculous. It's kind of stupid. It's like, yeah, Exorcist Emily Rose is pretty intense. Just nothing even remotely close to Exorcist 3. Not even close, right? And I'm also a big fan of Austin Scott. He also played Patton. I'll come back to him in a bit. Not Doug Ray Scott. Doug Ray's really great. Oh, George C. Scott. Sorry, George C. Scott. I love George C. Scott. He's just amazing. I saw The Changeling. He's just great. I mean, he's an amazing actor. He's a really good actor. Right. But, so anyway, so this lady I know feels The Shining is the scariest movie she's ever seen. And yes, it's true. Jack Nicholson can be very scary. That's true. But was he the reason why that movie is so scary? Even in her opinion? No, it wasn't really the scenes with Nicholson. Although they certainly be very scary. Shelley Duvall's wide open eyes and all these things. And that wasn't really the scariest scene for her, for this lady I know. Nope. The scariest scene, and it wasn't even, something, some people get spooked out by the fact that that black guy can kind of read minds or can communicate with the boy via just his mind. They get kind of like, it's a little bit scary, but it's nothing. Or that, there's the blood, those like the rivers of blood that are, and the red rum. That's kind of a little cheesy. You can't expect a little boy to be scary, not the way Jack Nicholson is, but Shelley Duvall's wide open eyes and terror, that sort of thing. No, okay, I'm throwing this out, but the reason why this lady I know feels like the scariest scene for her, and yes, it's true, I mentioned one other scene, sorry. There was a scene in that room where the boy gets the hickey or whatever, or something happens like that, or some kind of bruise. It's more of a bruise, okay? And yes, there's other scenes that I know they're kind of somehow related. There's the question of did the dad abuse his son and whatever, sexually, and there's this other scene where you have the bear and the man. They're kind of doing something sexual, which you don't have to get into in this scene. And I'd probably describe The Shining in some form or another in either a video or lengthy comment. I'll have to, but anyway. No, it wasn't any of that stuff. The scary scene for this lady was when they had the twin girls, right, that were in the hall, and they were saying, let's play, and just the way they were, right? So I mentioned a lot of things about Alice in Wonderland in the past, a lot of things, but I think this particular scene, for some reason, has some crossover with that kind of we'll just say weird, disturbing, potentially disturbing kind of thing about this movie, as well as possibly a more trippy version of Alice in Wonderland. It's because the boy is on his bicycle. In a way, it kind of reminds you of maybe The Omen. Although The Omen, the boy is evil, or it's the idea of a boy being so evil like that. But you have that similar kind of bike riding kind of idea. Although The Omen, it's a little different because, it's just, The Omen's pretty scary too, I'll be honest. It's pretty scary. So yeah, I mean, like, I was trying to figure out what made that scene so scary for this lady I know. It's just two girls, they're twins. Not really scary, right? Yeah, it's just like, okay, you have two girls that are staring right at him. So I'm trying to understand this a little better, and it is kind of random. It's a scene unlike anything else. And of course, you had the scene where the dad goes back into that room to see what happened with his son, and you have that basically woman who embraces the dad and starts kissing. He starts kissing her in a romantic, or we'll just use the word sexual way. And it turns out then, of course, in the mirror he sees that her body's changing, and then he's like, what? Whoa! And then she's like this lady that's dead, or kind of like, just sees her bones, like her skin falling off her bones, and she's like some kind of hag or looking old, just scary looking woman, and she's laughing and she's coming after him. And that actually is a little bit disturbing, to tell you the truth, that scene, because, I mean, the dad is obviously, having those emotions aroused when he was holding that woman, although it was a bit adulterous, of course. But then to have the woman turn into that hag lady laughing at him, so there's the embarrassment, or the it's kind of a mixture of fear and shock as well as embarrassment, all those emotions in one, which is a very Stephen King thing, by the way, even though Stanley Kubrick treated the whole thing differently then. But this is a very Stephen King thing, to have a blend of really negative emotions all at once. He does the same thing in It when it turns into Beverly Marsh and like kisses the fat boy, and the guy who plays the fat boy as an adult, John Ritter's character, right? It's Ben or something like that. So anyway, he when he realizes it's he's shocked. He pushes away from it and it's like, oh my gosh. And it, of course, is kind of mocking him and laughing at him. It's kind of like, it's nasty for one, it's embarrassing the other, and there's also the sexual element to be embarrassed about, and there's also like the shock of it, the fear. Because if it wanted to, he could have, I don't know, we don't know why he didn't tear people's arms off, because he had, whatever, that's different, whatever, that's here nor there, but yeah, you have, so that scene for me is pretty intense. But again, what is it with these two girls that was so frightening? I keep coming back to this idea. And we're going to get to other things that do us about Overlook Hotel. So, I think it's just the directness of those girls' eyes, their gaze, that it was just so out of the blue. This boy's riding his bike around, all of a sudden these girls staring right at him. And they just echo the same thing at the same time. It's a little bit unnerving in a way. And it's kind of the thing where if you start trying to think about what is going on, why this is happening, and the motive, what's actually, trying to understand the supernatural side of it, then it actually becomes more frightening, because you're considering sometimes some rather dark ideas indeed. You really are. So it's kind of like, yeah. So that's probably a lot of it. But let's get into the aesthetics here just for a bit. The aesthetics, or the feng shui, or the whatever is visually frightening about the Overlook Hotel. So, you have all these large spaces, just big, tall ceilings, Everything is very fancy. Well, I wouldn't say fancy, but everything is just kind of big and tall. So already, the reason why is one of the reasons why Catholic cathedrals can be a little bit, let's just say, scary in a way. In a way, it's the size of them, right? How tall they are. You can feel a little bit small in a very big, cavernous building, right, like that structure. But there's also, things like the colors. There's a lot of red in places, not just the blood, but just there's a lot of solid colors. It's certainly, from the carpeting and everything, it definitely feels 70s, 60s, 70s-ish in that ballpark. But, it's kind of feels empty. You kind of feel alone. There's only the dad, played by Jack Nicholson. He wants to be left alone increasingly. He's getting grumpier and grumpier with time. And there's the mom, and then there's her son. So in a way, the mom and her son, this is kind of one of the things about, and it's just the size of the hotel. Just the size of it. As well as, there's little things here and there that kind of maybe give a little warmth to it. I've noticed that, of course, this is supposed in Colorado, so there's maybe some sand paintings or some American Indian stuff going on. Navajo or whatever. Yeah, I've seen some of it. I recognize some of that. Or Hopi or... So there's that. So that's a little bit... That can be a little bit spiritual or supernatural in a way. In its own way. Sure. But, with all the hallways, with all the rooms, you only have 3 people in that whole building. A husband that's kind of going a little berserk, a sensitive mom who's just trying to keep it together, and then her son. And especially the mom and her son, again, are kind of the ones you're kind of, hoping they're going to be okay and you're rooting for. It's such a relief even when you have the black guy try to check up on him. You're just like, yeah, there's a 4th person here that is going to help him out, and yeah, like it's awesome. It's just such a precarious situation to have the husband. That situation, the strongest leader of the family, the strongest one. It's falling prey to the evils in this place, and it's kind of there's so many evil spirits in this, dead people, and who knows who else, demons, I don't know. The deceased humans that are bad, evil, that are just egging on the dad's, his stroking his ego, saying he's the father of the house. He can kind of slap his wife a little bit. Yeah, he can beat his son. Sure, he needs to correct them, right? Correct them. And I corrected her, Yeah, and all these people, we've had some discussions, Mr. Torrance. Are you up for the job? Okay. It's just like, oh my gosh, man. And there's just this constant, every day, every moment in this place. They're just pulling him down. And the mom and the kid's a little different situation maybe, but the mom was just beside herself, just with everything that's going on. It's amazing they actually got out of there. It just, ugh. And of course the dad froze to death at the end, of course, but, it's like it's just, so the Overlook Hotel is just not warm. The way they made it, the whole thing, it definitely feels very much like being at a place, even if you're on vacation, where you just are in this gigantic place. There's all these secrets that might be really fun to find out, but then if you start feeling the nature of the place, you're not really so sure that you want to find out these secrets at some point, and then you're just trying to get out of there because, holy crap. I mean, again, for me, that one scene when he walks into that room where the boy got that mark, or at least it's implied that he might have got that mark there, but it's also implied that he might have been whatever, beat by his dad or whatever. But I don't know. Sometimes it's hard for me to follow certain scenes here, but that for me was a lot more intense than a lot of other scenes. Just the fact that it's so vivid, descriptive kind of thing. I mean, it's just, oh my gosh. Anyway, but it's a spooky. It's a scary place. I don't think I want to use the word spooky. Spooky is Scooby-Doo. I don't like that word spooky. It's kind of cheesy. I don't know. But it's a pretty scary place in a way. I mean, can you imagine like going to sleep in a place like that? I mean, heck, Overlook Hotel. Okay, there's another Stephen King, story movie that was called Rose Red, right, based on that mansion in Seattle. It's true. There's a lot of trees, a lot of funny, vegetation in the middle of the house. And it was a big house, and they had those scary scenes where the house all of a sudden got a lot bigger and stuff and whatever. But there are a lot of things that are kind of jump scares in that movie. But The Shining is not at all like that at all. It's not like that at all. Even though Rose Red was a great movie, I liked it. It's great. Oh, The Shining is an entirely other level. Now, I haven't even got to all the symbolisms and all the conspiracy theories and all that stuff with Stanley Kubrick, which I'm about to get to. I'll get there. But again, I might have made another movie about this. Hopefully not. Hopefully, at least I'm covering different ground here. Hopefully. So, there's a lot of stuff in The Shining that's Stephen King, but some of it's maybe Stanley Kubrick, knowing what Stephen King did and kind of taking it to the next level. Now, so I mentioned things like color, and whites and reds and blacks and tans. There's not really a whole lot of green or blue. It's like mainly white, black, red, tan. And I guess there's the lawn outside, but it is kind of intense that way if you think about it. It's very there are rooms though that are a little bit different maybe, that have a few other colors, but they're off to the side. They're not the big rooms. And the big ballroom, right? That's mainly tan and brass, tan, copper, or bronze, or whatever. And fancy colors, right? It's a little different than the rest of the hotel. But yeah, it's kind of, it's just very big. And it's very, it can help make a man who's in charge of the whole place feel, you can get to him a little bit, maybe stoke his ego. Because the dad wasn't scared by this place. He wasn't scared. It was like freedom in a way. For him to write his novel, for him to kind of wander around a little bit, do what he wanted to do, have even more control in a way over his wife and son. So perhaps in maybe an abusive respect, or maybe in kind of a controlling aspect. But all that this being kind of dark stuff, kind of evil, right? So. Yeah, in fact, seriously though, if the hotel affected him differently than his wife and his son. His son, just trying to have a good time, was scared spitless half the time, and sometimes you wonder if he was possessed a little bit. And then his wife was just, again, going crazy, just scared. She sensed all these evil things. She tried to get her husband to get out of there, but he was like, "Are you insane? Are you out of your mind?" Right? That kind of stuff. So, being driven again, he's kind of a little bit of alcoholic. That wasn't good. That was not to savor either. But anyway, going on to some other things here. So Stanley Kubrick. I know this is what some of you guys are waiting for. A little, maybe not, because there's already a lot of YouTube videos about this already. But I thought I'd mention at least some of my thoughts about this stuff. So Stanley Kubrick, he has this image of a spaceship on the boy's shirt or something like that, and he's yeah, okay, so the NASA thing, right? I'm undecided about this. I really am undecided. I think we have been to the moon. I just don't know if it was when we said it was. I'm assuming we have. I've seen some videos, but I'm still holding to this idea that we have been to the moon. Just a question of when exactly. I think we've had the technology. can do it, you know. So. But that's really kind of just the tip of the iceberg. Stanley Kubrick was one of the most intelligent of all directors, certainly, and also shrewdest and most observant. And yeah, if anybody knew about the Illuminati, it would be Stanley Kubrick. So it's true. I have seen some stuff about this on YouTube, and it makes perfect sense to me to say I realize Stanley Kubrick was aware of the fact that the folks that are in charge are pretty bad boys, folks, and even in Hollywood, certainly in Hollywood, there's some pretty bad boys in charge of stuff. Bad, like pedophile bad, or worse, even if it can be something worse. And so he wanted to apparently investigate it, and I guess he was killed. And there's still some things I'm learning here and there. But it sounds like Stanley Kubrick. I mean, seriously, if there's any director that gets the heart of matters, or could, it would be Stanley Kubrick. Right? That's the kind of stuff that he did. That's how he directed. He went all out, full throttle, not holding back. If Stanley Kubrick had done Schindler's List, holy crud, that would have been... Steven Spielberg couldn't even touch it. He wouldn't be able to touch it. Maybe it's too emotional for Kubrick. I'm sure it was. But... So, yeah, he was going to do, apparently, something about pedophilia in Hollywood. And, yeah, I think they like, yep, enough's enough. But, the thing about The Shining is, I've heard it said, not just the NASA thing, but there are other things in the movie where he might be hinting at other things, right? Dropping hints about things like the Illuminati and stuff. I really do think that this is a very interesting topic because, maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, but he might have likely been doing that, and trying to communicate to everybody stuff that's happening in a way that maybe he would be able to get by with stuff like that and not be, blacklisted stuff or whatever. Could you just appreciate for a second how much effort it took for him to make these movies? And I'm not saying that I entirely agree with every decision he made, or even, knowing that he made a movie like Full Metal Jacket, right? That's kind of a pretty off-color movie in some moments, So, I mean, maybe some aspects of his morals weren't super great, but can you just try to imagine how hard it was for him to make these movies, and how much energy it took, and how demanding he was on himself to get everything just right, So, gosh, if Stephen King didn't care for a lot of things Stanley Kubrick did to The Shining, Stephen King probably realizes this himself, very much so. Stanley Kubrick is probably just like laughing all the way to the bank. No, Stanley Kubrick didn't do what he did just for money. Obviously not. Stanley Kubrick was actually a very much into the art, more than vast majority of directors anyway. But he never did anything pop. That's very opposite Stanley Kubrick. You can blame that on Disney, even though I think Disney was also after something above pop as well. But Stanley Kubrick was he made statements, right? He put forth his own philosophies and stuff. Yeah. I think I have done a video on Stanley Kubrick, but maybe it went a little bit different direction, by the way. So, apologies in advance. But anyway, so there's a lot of things I'm not thinking of that I know it's been brought to my attention at some point or whatever about Stanley Kubrick and his ideas and things in various movies like The Shining. And this being said, though, I think that I can make another statement here that I do notice in certain movies when you have certain scenes that have more staying power in one's memory for various reasons. One of those scenes, for instance, in, say, another scary movie like The Omen, might have been, again, that one scene where Damien is riding his bike, and he knocks over his mom, quote unquote mom, right? And she has a miscarriage. And the way that the caretaker, aka Damien's real mom, the way she was, looking very beastly, cat-like, whatever. I mean, there's there's so many scenes in The Omen that are just so iconic that they stay with you. Yeah, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below. All right, catch you guys later. Thanks. Bye.